bar after.
Yeah, yeah. The official, last official. Educated course. Actually, no. A lot of learning happens when you're drinking at the bar with people in masterminds. Like, yeah. All right. We're gonna kick it off with the last stretch of the night. It's a session on mindset. We put a lot of effort into this thing and try to make it as concise as possible. Again, mindset and the entire thought process of what happens whenever we get challenged is one of the biggest things that's going to knock us off, right? At the end of the day, we can be the best at pitching innovations. We can be the best at having business structures and systems in place. But if the mindset is not right, we're not going to have the tenacity to stay consistent in the stuff that we need to do. So what we're going to go over right now, it's a bulletproof mindset presentation. There's a couple. I'm plugging in a lot of just essential principles of psychology into it, and towards the end of the presentation, we're going to give you some pragmatic advice on how to reset your thinking. Who here has ever been on a situation where they just they feel like they're in a dark hole, and yeah, I don't know what's going on with the mic. Yeah, it's this thing. So they feel like they're in this space where they feel trapped. You guys feel like you're bottled up. You don't know where to go. Entrepreneurship can be a very lonely place. Not a lot of people are going to understand the stuff that you're putting yourself through. So somebody just give me an example. Like somebody raise who has been like that? Let's say in the last 2 weeks. If you had a spot where you went and your mindset just kind of fell off the wagon. Yeah? Would you like to elaborate a little bit?
Just obviously with the market shift and everything, money getting tight, having money tied up and stuff and not being liquid.
Yeah.
Buying a personal house where the interest rates change by the time I have to refi.
Oh my God, yeah.
Feeling just very, very cornered.
Yeah.
Pigeonholed into a spot where I felt I couldn't move.
Yeah, and I guarantee you, you're not the only one, right, that ends up in a situation like that. And again, it can be a very lonely place. One of the best things that we can do as entrepreneurs is to figure out who we are, bring awareness to how we reset, right? Everybody has their own thought process, their own way of thinking, their own mechanism per se, their own programming. But understanding how we can come and reset ourselves as we're going through this process and have the awareness to if we start doing this, right? What do I have to do to get back on center? What do I have to do to get back on track and not lose that fire that woke me up in the morning to get shit done, right? Because once that's gone, then you have real problems. Then you're not gonna want to figure out how to generate leads, how to pivot when the market is shifting, because you don't give two shits about it. So mindset is really at the base of it all, and I think it's not. We'll see highlights and posts and inspirational quotes and shit like that, but I don't think it's something that we put enough emphasis on. So that's what this whole thing is about.
I just want to chime in on a quick point there. He said motivation. He's a psychologist. I am not, for the record. There's a difference between motivation and discipline. Okay, motivation is an emotion. It's something that you see something. You see David Goggins, if everybody knows who the hell that is. He's a nut job, right? But he runs 100 miles. So some days when I'm feeling like shit, I watch David Goggins. And I'm like, stop being a bitch. And I get up and I go out and do my day, right? But that's an emotion. That's a state. That's something that triggers you and then it fades away. Discipline, however, is what keeps you in the game long term. I really don't care about what people do or even what I do on my good days, right? When the market's been good for the last 2 years, it's easy. When I feel like going to the gym, it's easy. When I feel like dieting, it's easy. When my relationship with my girlfriend's great, it's easy, right? I want to see what people do, and where it's important is the days that shit sucks. The days where shit hits the fan. The days where buyers are canceling deals, interest rates are at 7%, you can't find a deal to save your life, etc. Right? You're arguing with everybody, and then it starts to snowball. And one conscientious thing that I do is just pay attention to internally. And I'm not perfect at it. I'm still not great at it, but it's a work in progress, a moving target. But I start to feel myself go to that place, And one conversation will go shitty, and then another conversation will go shitty, and then another thing will happen. And I'm a big believer. We talk about the law of attraction all the time. If you don't believe in that, I don't know what to tell you because it's real. You can, it could be spiritual. I don't care, right? I don't care what you believe, but there really is something to say about energy and about what your perspective is and the kaleidoscope of how you're looking at things coming in, whether they're negative. And I'm sure we've all had friends in here or people that we know that you ask them about their day and they're like, same shit, different day. It's like, well, that's what.
Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, it's like, great. Like, what are you supposed to say to somebody when they greet you like that? You're like, get the fuck away from me. That's what I want to say. I'd be like, get your shit and go over there. I don't want that shit in my life. It's just, it's the way that you portray it. It's language, your tonality. And I'm not saying that I wake up in the morning and I'm popping confetti and I'm excited.
You don't?
Playing around with my dogs. That's not what I'm saying. Some mornings I'm not pleasant to be around, I'm sure. But, it's how the discipline keeps you there. And the discipline through a time like this, chaos, when you have a routine, that's what you will fall back on. And routines can be good and routines can be bad. When you have a lot of stress, a negative routine, for example, you resort to, well, fuck it, I'm going to go out and drink with my friends because I just want to get shit faced, whatever, right? We've all done it. It's fine, but that's not a positive routine, right? For me, when I start to get that certain kind of way, I already notice it, and it's like muscle memory, and I'm like, all right, I got to go hit the gym, or I got to go do something. I got to go for a walk, or I just got to go talk or something. I got to go get it out, right? I got to go find something positive, or I try to write something down that I'm grateful for, just real quick. And it's difficult because I just want to say, fuck everybody. I don't want today to happen. I want it to be tomorrow. But if I just write something down, I might call my girlfriend. I might call my mom. I don't care. I might call my brother. I don't know. But yeah, things like that. And Tony Robbins talks about this all the time. Switching your state physically is very important. So when you feel that way, just go do something. Just go do something. Walk outside. It's beautiful weather out. It's hard to be upset when it's really nice, sunny, and 60 degrees. You got to be a real asshole to walk around pissed outside.
In good weather.
In beautiful weather, right? Just do something.
We recorded a pretty cool podcast today. When we send out the resources, the spreadsheets, and all that stuff that we've been promising the whole afternoon, we'll send you the link to the podcast as well. I mean, we went heavy on mindset on the podcast. I mean, it wasn't intentional, but it's kind of like where the conversation gravitated. And if you think about it, there's a lot of nuts and bolts conversations that happen when you're at the, okay, la chinga. That's you?
Yeah.
Oh.
Every time I turn it on.
Oh, turn it. All right. So, but really the relationship, the building again is when we're talking about what's your state of being, what's your state of mind, what can I help you with? A lot of times it's like, okay, cool, yeah, generate leads, bring deals or whatever, but sometimes a simple conversation is going to put you in a very, very, cool space when that space wasn't there before. Somebody can hold that space for you too, so that's important. It all starts with awareness, right? So before we get too crazy on tangents, I felt burned out at 26 years old. I'm 39 now. I'm going to be 40 in January. And at 26 years old, I wanted to throw in the towel. Like, I had another business. It was a medical transportation business. But that picture that I was trying to paint a little earlier as, being in the hole and feeling like everything's dark around me and, cold and wet and like everything's shitty and the world sucks. That's what I felt like. And it was burnout. I was going through the motions of building a business and making, ends meet and trying to grow it at the same time, trying to grow myself at the same time, not understanding who I was, not understanding the business, the competition, the, ins and outs of anything that I had to do there. So it was all very heavy and very taxing. The biggest problem was that I was doing a lot of stuff that was hurting me unintentionally, but I wasn't aware of it. I didn't know what was going on. There was a lot of things that I was just kind of keeping bottled up. I wasn't letting things go, and that's something that can happen as entrepreneurs if we don't have the awareness of what's happening. So, I mean, for example, that what you were talking about earlier, that's one situation, right? But when that becomes a habit, it can become a habit where instead of standing back, resetting, meditating, or doing other stuff like that, it's going to put us back in center. We slash ourselves for, I don't know, the day, right? Then we do it again, 3 days later, and then we do it again, 2 days later. Now it becomes this trend, and we're in this track of just, behaving that way, and it becomes the norm, all right? Inevitably, that type of stuff is going to become the norm, right? If you treat it that way. The biggest problem for me was that I had no clarity over who I was and where I wanted to be and where I wanted to end up. I was doing a lot of work, and I was chasing the dollar. I was doing, you name it, right? I was building this thing, and I was trying to, be the best employer, be the leader, be the driver, the dispatcher, the cleaning lady, everything, right? I was doing a lot of things, but I had no clarity. What you were talking about right now, lack of clarity on the market. So think about that for a second. When you feel stressed, when you feel like something is weighing on you, are you usually clear about what the outcome is, or is it a feeling of uncertainty that's creating that, right? I guarantee you, most often than not, it's going to be that feeling of uncertainty, that feeling that we don't know. We almost feel powerless, right? Because we don't have that thing that tells us, okay, this is where we're headed, and everything's gonna be okay. If we have that as entrepreneurs, we tend to feel self-sufficient. We tend to feel self-empowered, right? But if there's no fucking beacon telling you where to go, we can get lost, and it can happen really, really quick. So lack of clarity is gonna be one of the biggest things. Locus of control plays into that lack of clarity. Internal locus of control, and this is I'll make it as simple as possible, but essentially, when you have an internal locus of control, you process life through the lens of your destiny is controlled by you. It's an internal locus of control. Most entrepreneurs are that way. Why? Because we know where we're headed. We know that we're going to figure shit out to get to that point, right? It's up to me to make things work. It's up to me not to give up, not to feel like I'm a victim of my circumstances, right? That's internal locus of control. So you're internally driven. Hero mindset. The external locus of control is my destiny is controlled by the world around me. That's when something happens, something shifts, and then we just kind of lay down and die. A lot of people right now are doing that very same thing in real estate. I mean, how many agents have you seen just fall off the wagon in the last 2 months? 2 months. 2 months, and people are quitting careers. That's an external locus of control, right? It's not the I'm gonna figure it out mentality. It's not the okay, let's see how we can come about a solution to this thing, or how can we tap into an opportunity where everybody else is seeing, just failure and chaos, right?
This is also, to chime in on his point, the reason why they're not doing that is because there's a difference between when you earn something, and there's a difference between when something's given to you. The market the last 2 years has given a lot to undeserving people per se. And when you earn something, and the classic example is a trust fund baby, for example, it doesn't always have to be the case, but it's most times, they blow through their fucking money. As soon as that person is deceased, and now the kid or the next generation that was never taught what to do with that money burns through his money or her money. Why? They have no idea how that money came to be. They just think that that's their normal. Well, it's here, so I'll spend it. But they don't know how to make that money. A person who's first generation, who makes that money, earns it, is in rooms like this, travels, busts his ass, her ass, whatever. It's a very different outlook on money. And when shit hits the fan, guys like me and him look at this and we're like, oh man, what a great fucking opportunity.
I don't know what it looks like, but there's got to be something there.
Right. And I know, my spidey sense is tingling just from the simple fact that I see so many people running away and just quitting. So when I see that, my internal locus of control, as he would say, pings on, and I'm like, okay, it's game time now, because now I can capture market share. When COVID started, great example. Yeah. When COVID hit, everyone around me in South Florida that were badasses on social media and this and that, most of them were selling office equipment, literally on Instagram, closing up shop, not doing anything, stop doing deal. Well, I'm not doing marketing anymore. The world's going to shit. 2-3 months after, I decided to double and triple down on marketing, and 6 months later, it was off to the races. Then those people tried getting back into the market, and they couldn't catch me if they tried, because I had eaten so much market share. But also, I was down to a couple $100,000, and that was it, and no income was coming in for 4 or 5 months. So, sorry for the ladies in the room, but I had to put my balls on the table and really, really see what was what. And I think that, 07, 08, I wasn't an entrepreneur at the time, but it's a great example. The most amount of wealth ever was erased. But 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 created the most amount of wealth transfer ever. Period. So how do you explain that, right? It's the people that stayed in it. So
now think about this for a second, right? We're talking about clarity. We're talking about where is your path taking you. If you haven't sat down to journal this, actually write it down and clarify your path where you want to be in 2 years, 3 years, 6 months. And you don't have a clear beacon of where you're headed, that's going to be one thing. But if you have that and then you combine it with an external locus of control, meaning that you're driven by the situations around you and you haven't shifted that, you haven't shifted your mindset to understand that we do have the ability to impact our own lives as we go through this process. We're given so much opportunity to create stuff, right? To develop stuff, to partner up stuff. I mean, I can't tell you how many stories I know of that, from rags to riches, right? Because we live in that space. No clarity, external locus of control, it's going to create that space of chaos. That's what was happening to me. I was 26 and I got burned out. I didn't want to work. I didn't want to do anything else. I just didn't feel like it, but it was because I had no clarity where my business was going, where I was going. And then I was putting the blame on okay, the access providers, the insurance company's not paying me, this and that. Like, no, there was a lot of fucking thing I could have been doing at the time, but I was blaming it on something outside of me, which was, the bad thing that kept creating more bad things in my space. Think about that. Where is your clarity at on a scale of 1 to 10? And are you being driven by an external locus of control or internal locus of control? All right. 2 simple questions. Now, how is perspective created? How do we interpret everything that we see around us? All right. Classical conditioning. It's the combination of the environment that we grow in and the experiences that we live. That's going to give us an understanding of life. It's going to give us an interpretation of life, and that's how we start seeing things, all right? So we have natural behaviors, natural strengths, and then we add classical conditioning to that, which is our own biases, right? But between both of them, we create biases, mental programming, and then default thinking habits. Default thinking habits is the thing that kind of runs the boat, per se. Your habits are going to be the ones that make you or break you. It's insane to think that I have real shitty habits and I want success. I have, the bad habit of not studying, not working on my craft, not getting better at, what I'm trying to do, not getting better at clarity, not getting better at action taking, and expect to have this level of success that, for example, people like Will are having, right? It doesn't line up. It's not in alignment. So where are our habits taking us? And we have absolute control over habits. Just to make that clear, we have absolute control over habits. There's going to be pushback. There's going to be a lot of stuff that we may not feel comfortable with, but we can absolutely change our habits. We can absolutely change the I don't know, if you normally wake up at 11 a.m. and then you start your day on the wrong foot because of whatever, right? You can change that to wake up, I don't know, an hour earlier. If you don't meditate, you don't work out, you don't eat right, you can change that to give you the result that you want to get to in the future, right? But we can absolutely impact our habits. Now, when that happens, that's going to impact our actions. Habits, they lead to the regular actions that we take, and then that leads to the results, right? So we start, stacking up these little wins whenever we shift our habits. Like, that's really where it begins. We can absolutely impact that, right? Internal locus of control. Something's not working, I'm going to change my fucking habits. That's easier than trying to tackle an end result right out of the gate, right? You saw something that you weren't liking. What happened? You changed your habits. You started working out. You started eating better. You started, actually tapping into the whole space of personal growth, which we were talking about in the podcast. But it's totally doable. The point I'm trying to make here is, if the habits that you have right now are not leading you, and ask yourself, you may not even be aware of it, but they're not in alignment to where you want to go, that you can do something about that. We can reprogram our thinking. It's not
It's not set in stone.
yeah, it's not set in stone. There's a lot of, we're dynamic beings. There's a lot of I'm drawing a blank on the word, but anyways, it's changeable. we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. All right. If we are people who are stuck in the space of, we're someone that's stuck in the space of victimhood. We're someone that's stuck in the space of, no, you know what? I mean, I can only push as far as my environment allows me to. That's how you're gonna see every single opportunity. But if you're more open-minded and you're the type of person that likes to go after it, and that's you're gonna see opportunity left and right. Right? The question is, do these biases, do they help us or do they hurt us? We start creating biases as to, no, listen, I mean, I grew up in a mobile home, and my financial thermostat was set to a specific degree, right? I know a lot of people in my town that kind of stayed in that same space. I decided to break my biases. I understood, I got exposed to different perspectives, and I understood that I could increase that. I could break that, and I could live different experiences, right? But they were, at the beginning, they were anchored on biases. And it's scary to understand that most of the things that we do on a regular basis are unconscious. Most of the things that, I mean, when you go from your job, from work to your home, you're not thinking about every single little turn. You're not thinking about the which lane you're gonna switch. You're just doing it. Sometimes I bet you jump in your car and then you go through this trip in your head, and then you get home. It's like, oh shit, what happened? Like, how did I get here, right? That's your subconscious taking over. It's the same thing that happens with biases. We start to think or give certain degrees of importance to events that they're not even real. They're just biases that we created because of the environment that we grew in, because of the limitations we think we have, and we haven't decided to break them, right? Are we consciously taking actions or reacting to our situations? That's another question. So whenever you feel overwhelmed, whenever you feel like you're in that deep, dark hole, are you consciously, taking action to resolve it, or are you just kind of, responding to the thing, right? When somebody pisses you off over the phone, are you consciously processing what's going on, or just reacting and shooting from the hip? Most of the time, we're shooting from the hip. Most of the time, it's responses, it's reactionary, what we're doing, as opposed to actually, being in it and taking conscious action. So that can be changed. Thoughts lead to decisions, decisions lead to actions, right? I'm trying to build this whole thing to like the climax.
Adele did not build this infographic.
Yeah.
As you can see.
Yeah, exactly. So good. All right. So it begins at the base. We see observable data. We see information, right? We see situations. We talk to people. We see we see a homeless person in the street, and it's observable data, right? We'll use this as an example. One committee member is looking at his phone and is not contributing to the meeting. Like somebody's sitting here, they're looking at my phone, or they're looking at the phone. I can automatically make a biased opinion, like, oh, they don't care. Like they're ignoring the thing. But I don't know, it may be an emergency text, right? I don't know. But what happens is that we create context, the experience of the moment. That's what happens when you take data in. When you're looking at the news or watching the news and looking at the market take a dip, you're taking data in, right? The next thing is that we add meaning to it. When someone doesn't contribute, it means that they don't care. So we start creating judgments, right? Default thinking patterns. Where does your classical conditioning take you? Like, what is the default thinking that you're going back to? When somebody cuts you off on the road, do you automatically get pissed off? Like, I know I do. Yeah. No, that's default thinking. It's going back to that emotion, that state of emotion. Ego plays the same role. When somebody challenges or challenges our ego, same thing, fucking kicks in. And then default thinking takes over. Well, no, I'm gonna show you that I'm better than you. I'm better than that. I'm better than this. And at the end of the day, it's fucking ego. Who gives a shit, right? But we have default thinking patterns. What are yours? What is your default thinking? And where does it put you whenever you get hit with adversity, all right? A lot of this is gonna be about awareness. It's about asking yourself the question of, where am I at? And how am I responding to these things, all right? We start assuming if people don't care, they shouldn't be invited to future meetings, all right? So we make decisions based on assumptions. these trigger our actions based on values, on the stuff that we've learned in the past and all that stuff, right? So we start making decisions. Now, imagine if we put bad context to one thing, like that's gonna lead to a shitty decision. Like him buying 5 rehabs when he hates rehabs. So what happens? The actions. I will not invite David to the next meeting, right? So that's the essential flow of how actions come about, right? We observe data, we add meaning to it, we assume stuff, then we take actions. Those actions lead to behavioral patterns. They lead to things that become consistent in our lives. Who's ever cold called for a long period of time? Here. Okay, cool. When you started cold calling, was it easy to do at the beginning?
No. Stumbling every single word and hang up some people.
Right. Did it a week? Did it the next week? The next week?
Yeah.
So those become behavioral patterns, right? Just like that activity, the repetition of it made you better. It became a behavioral pattern. Now I'm sure you can pick up the phone and then just have a conversation, not just with a cold call, but anybody in particular, right? So that one action led to a behavioral improvement in you. We can do that type of stuff. Whenever we get challenged, again, as entrepreneurs, if we get hit in the face by adversity, we get hit in the face with, external circumstances, we can choose to create a new perspective of it. All right. I know it may sound easier said than done, but it's really the thing that that it's possible to rewire our thinking. Work with me here. What does that say?
Still.
Louder, come on.
Still.
Again?
Still.
Fuck, did you guys drink coffee or not? What does that say?
Still.
Again.
Still.
Again.
Still.
Again.
Still.
Again.
Still.
What do cows drink?
Water.
Oh,
Ha
you said that one.
Yeah, you knew that one.
I train my BAs all the time with that. So they're
So you had to fuck it up for the rest of the room. Thank you. See, that was my behavioral bias.
He
Just
did that shit to me on the phone the other day. I was like, milk.
like he was just one dude. Like it wasn't.
And I went to my girlfriend. She's like, milk. I'm like, stupid.
So let's go to neural reconditioning. We can rewire the way we think. We can. So if you feel like you're not fit, like you're not doing this, things right, like you know what, people can do it. Like, I don't know, they have a gift. That's bullshit. We can rewire our own thinking. If we feel like we're crappy at certain things, we can rewire our perspective on that, right? And work on the craft, work on the improvement of the skill set. But none of that comes if you don't improve the thinking, if you don't improve the thought process that's happening up here, all right? What does that say? What does that say?
Still.
What do cows drink?
Water.
We just rewired our thinking. Like, I'm telling you, if that's not rewiring, I don't know how to explain it. But that's really how real it is, right? I mean, it took less than 10 seconds to rewire something as simple as that. It's a matter of learning. Brain works the same way. Psychology learns the same way. So ask yourself, where do my actions and my biases come from? The negative thoughts or the things that pull me down, market fears, not getting enough leads, I'm not a good closer, there's no buyers out there, there's no, where are those thoughts coming from? Are they legit thoughts, or are they just, shit that we're making up in our minds, right? Guarantee you, it's gonna be the second most of the time.
Most of the shit that we worry about anyways never even happened.
Yeah.
You guys ever notice that? You worry about so much shit and it never happens.
Yeah.
You watch too much YouTube.
Yeah.
Wrong
About
stuff.
the market.
Yeah. Are you, am I reacting to my environment and situations, or actually taking conscious action? Am I taking ownership of my thoughts? If you're not meditating and journaling, do it. It's the best way to have a conversation with yourself. I have friends that also do, memos on the phone, and they start, just kind of thinking out loud, speaking out loud. To me, journaling and writing down stuff, I'm always writing stuff down because it brings me that level of clarity. And it forces the linear thinking, right? A lot of times we have a project in mind. We have, I don't know, I'm working on this deal, but it's kind of foggy. Pieces are out here. When you write it down, you have to grab them and then put them in linear form, and it creates clarity. So it's a really, really, really good exercise for clarity. Now let's talk a little bit about mindset. Is there anything you wanted to add to that?
to silk.
Not silk. Still can't get over it, huh? I'm like, no, stupid. They drink water.
It's actually what it sounds like.
Yeah.
It's too late for this shit.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go. So there's five stages of self-actualization. As entrepreneurs, we're always growing. If you're not growing, you're dying. Have you heard that? It's a very common saying, right? This is what it's referring to, right? We have a psychological space, safety, love and belonging, recognition, and fulfillment. Those are the 5 things that as human beings we're craving, we're wanting. We're talking about culture, love and belonging. I mean, kicks in right there, right? It's part of the nourishment. We don't just need tons of cash. We don't just need hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, he was talking about it earlier, right? Like you get to a point where you get out of that survival state and now you want to contribute, right? You want fulfillment in your life and purpose. So where are you at on those five stages of self-actualization? What's going on, in terms of how fulfilled and how complete are you in those areas? You are going to have a psychological need, right? For food, sleep, shelter, and clothing. That's what's going to keep you kind of sane when you're not, dying of hunger. It's you can actually think about other stuff. I see it all the time that people try to be creative when they're in a state of survival, meaning that you can't pay, the bills, you're past due, you're on I don't know. Your survival is not taken care of, right? Yet people want to get super creative, or they want to empower, and they want to contribute, and they want to impact, and all kinds of shit when they haven't filled up their cup. It's impossible to do that. If you don't have $1, you can't give $1 to somebody else. If you don't have a cup of water, I can't give you a cup of water if I don't have one, right? So it's in that sense, being selfish is one of the most unselfish things that we can do. We have to figure ourselves out, and then that's gonna get spilled over to the people around us.
And you should. I don't know who I was talking about it with last night. I think it was you actually. Matter of fact, yeah, because you're how old?
22.
Right, and you just started this journey, right? Like a year and a half ago or something?
Yeah.
Right. So I told him and it sounds callous and harsh, but I told him, I said, fire all your friends. It really, when I first started out in my business, all my friends were in finance. They were all making 80 grand a year, beautiful 401ks that are worth shit now. And the 1 month paid vacation with the little perks and the 1 hour lunches and the little suits and Merrill Lynch and all that shit. And they're so comfortable. And what I was doing was the complete opposite. I was trying to explain to them how I'm putting out bandit signs in the rain for people to sell me houses. And they were like, this guy's toast. He's gone. Like he's off the reservation. And yeah, and it got to a point where I finally did do a deal, 2 deals, 3 deals, 4 deals, 5 deals. And now my self-confidence was here. And I was like, all right, I knew I could do this. I'm going to keep going. And then every time I would hang out with them or whatever, it was the same bullshit, the same conversation. And I really became hyper aware of the fact that it was taking away from me and it was not in alignment anymore. It doesn't make them bad people. It doesn't mean that I don't love them. I've been to all their weddings. It's amazing. Every single time I show up to these weddings, 5-6 years later, they're still talking about the same shit. How much their 401k is worth now, how much paid vacation time they have now, and blah, 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 blah. And the fact that they're making X, Y, Z. So, and what they don't realize is they've gotten 5% pay increases for the last decade of their lives, and they've literally traded their entire life on a hamster wheel. And it just gets to a point where to get to where you want to go, whether it's in this room, real estate, whatever it is, the conversations need to change. Therefore, you need to change. Therefore, the people around you need to change. Therefore, your environment and the rooms that you're in needs to change. Yeah. Period. There's no way that you're going to have, you will not see a very, very successful person having an intellectual conversation with a janitor, for example. Not that there's anything wrong with that, and they can talk about anything else, but at a certain point, that conversation is going to go like this. Because this dude's problems and this dude's problems are completely different. And, it took a lot of trouble for me and a lot of people in this room to get out from where we started, from where we are. So it scares the shit out of me to ever, not to say that I wouldn't relate to people like that, but I'm looking for something else. And I don't view the world as they do anymore, which is complaining and whining and bitching. And I got laid off and da-da-da-da. And then they're bitching about all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, but you gave your life away. You gave your control of your life away anyway. I get up every day and if I want to go make $100,000 in a month, I can go do that. If I want to go fuck off and not do anything, I can go do that too. Now I'm going to pay the price for it, right? But they just clock in, clock out. And then they're pissed when they get laid off. They're like, oh, but I did everything right. I'm like, yeah, but it's in somebody else's hands. It's not in your hands.
I think it comes down to awareness, right? I mean, it's sometimes you're going to have people who are very successful in an industry or a job like that. But the awareness that they can do something bigger is not there, or the belief, right? We have awareness first, and then we have to have belief to come right after that. Otherwise, it doesn't pan out. But yeah, ask yourself where you're at, right? Like, understand that you're going to need the 5 things as a human being. Psychological, which is food, sleep, shelter, and clothing; safety, stability, physical and financial, right? Love and belonging, family and friends, connections. How many times have you ever talked to somebody who just spends the entire time in a cubicle or in a room and never talks to anybody? How pleasant is that person, right? How joyful is that person? How much do they smile? I like to track and gauge the value of my days by smiles. Think about like, just indulge me here, and I think it's a little bit further down, but okay. Think about this for a second, right? What the easiest way to understand whether or not you're on the right track is joy. It's not, utopia. It's not, it's joy. It's a smile on your face. If you're smiling, smirking, if you feel there's a degree of joy in any point in time in your day, you're in the right space. You're on the right track, right? Isn't that simple? Isn't that a lot easier to follow than ultimate happiness, than, ultimate purpose? Like, this is what I'm here for in life. Like, fuck that. Purpose changes every month. But if you look at joy, it's going to tell you whether or not you're on the right track. So a little bit of a tangent, but not really. So recognition, there's going to be a point where you're going to want achievement and contribution, right? And recognition, because you want to feel like you matter, because you want to feel like, okay, I've had this good space, this good time track or whatnot. I want to put it forward. I want to pay it forward. I want to help somebody else succeed. I want to help somebody else crush it and live their own best life, right? And then fulfillment, life and purpose. I mean, that's huge. I think purpose gets misinterpreted. We think purpose, and we think usually like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do in life. Life, right? We give it this sense of permanence, and it's not permanent. Are you the same person you were 5 years ago? Are you the same person you were 5 years ago? Are you? Yeah, exactly. So why should our purpose be the same purpose, now and 50 years? What happens? We get fucking analysis paralysis thinking about purpose. Like, oh, no, I got to have the right purpose so I can feel fulfilled, or like I can make an impact, or that I can be driven and I can wake up every morning just feeling motivated. Like, no, just, figure out what your purpose today is, Like, I don't know if it's, I want to call 10 people. I want to lock up my first contract. That's my purpose for now, right? Maybe somewhat shallow. It's not going to be an industry changing or worldly impact purpose, but it's going to get you through that period of time where you're trying to figure out your real purpose, right? Eventually, you're going to get to a point where, okay, this is the thing that drives me. I can tell you now that my purpose is to empower entrepreneurship. Everything in my day, anybody who knows me knows this, but everything I do in my day empowers entrepreneurship one way or another. Either I do it through my businesses, I do it through conversations with students, I do it through my videos and podcasts and all that stuff. Somehow, some way, it's simple. I go back to that empower entrepreneurship thing, right? Boom, that's on purpose. That puts a smile on my face, gives me joy. Like, I'm on the right track. I'm winning. I don't know if that's going to be the same thing in 5 years, and I'm perfectly okay with it, right? In 5 years, I don't know. I may want to be a hermit crab and then go somewhere else where nobody can find me. Like, that changes.
I can do that.
Yeah. So life and purpose. Having a sense of purpose, I think, is more important than having that ultimate level of clarity on what purpose is, because it changes.
It's also changes. Like, to his point, for a long time, I fought who I am, like who my being is, and I tried to like justify it, because I'm from the moment I get up, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. From the moment I get up in the morning, I'm like, like I like jump out of bed. And it's not that I'm excited. It's just I move with a purpose. and I'm driven, you know, and it was a big issue between my girlfriend and I for a while because she's like, you know what, I'm just gonna lay in bed, like to the point where she would just lay in bed and wait like the 30-minute buffer where I walked the dogs and I came back and then I left to the gym because she's like, it's just too much for me, you know, because for her, she likes to get up and do her little tea in the morning and sit outside on the balcony and look outside at the birds and and the whole thing. And that's beautiful. It's nice. It's not my thing. I would fucking want to jump off the balcony if I did that. But, you know, she didn't understand me and I didn't understand her. And, you know, for me, I'm like, rah, rah, rah. And if I come home at like 7 o'clock at night, I'm like, oh, this is an early day for me. Like, because I truly enjoy what I do. And I also am very driven because, like he said, my purpose is at this point in my life, it's just much bigger. And one thing for me, I get really hard on myself. And I'm very in tune with the fact of the amount of potential that I have and what a waste that it would be if I don't get up every day and I try to, you know, maximize that potential. And I think back, and we spoke about this on the podcast, my parents left Cuba and then went to Venezuela and then came here, like single mom, single grandmother with 2 kids. So there's a lot of shit that those 2 women have done for me. Of course, because I'm their son, I'm their grandson, but they didn't have to, you know. I could be on a piece of shit island like Cuba in communism right now if they had not gotten up and moved their ass. So, and then they had to do it again because Venezuela got fucked. So 2 countries and then came to America, right? So they got it right on the 3rd time. But I kind of think about that, and we were talking about that today. Like, what I look at it as a higher purpose, and I'm like, what kind of a piece of shit son or grandson would I be if I came here? And I told my mom, I was like, I didn't come here. You didn't come to this country for me to be in a fucking cubicle. That's just it. Y para ser pobre. Like, that's not what we came here for, period. Like, it's fine, but that's not what I'm gonna be, you know? And I think, again, that's what drives me. And there's nothing that would deter me because that's where it comes to the point of like the money and this and that. Like, that only drives you to a certain point. There's only so many Rolexes you can buy and all this bullshit. And I tried it last year. I bought the fucking race car and this and that and whatever. Look at me in a fucking lime green car like an asshole because I wanted people to look at me. And I'll say that story very, very honestly. Now I have a car. It's very quiet. It's nice. I got tints on it. It's not a fucking supercar, you know? But again, it was for the wrong reasons. I love fast cars, but it was for the wrong reasons. Now today it's very... I'm at peace with who I am, but I'm driven by that higher purpose. I want to make them proud and myself proud. But I'm also very aware of the fact that I'm not competing with anybody. Comparison is the mother of all suffering. Yeah. And it really, really is. No matter what level, like when I was barely making ends meet, I would look at people that I perceived to have been doing so well. And I was like, oh man, I wish I had that. But I don't know what their fucking problems are. I don't know if they're making $1 million, but their debts are 900. So they're not making shit, you know? And then as I started to elevate and go up, I started realizing like, fuck, this is what it's like to make $1 million? Man, that's like a lot of fucking problems. And I'm like, if you wanted this, so then, you know, you go to the next one and it's like, all right, it'll get better on the 2nd and 3rd one. And then you do that and you're like, it's not gonna, it's more problems, right? Well, but it's a different caliber.
Eventually you grow out of that state, right? You start, you know, tapping more into that space or that side of you that wants to empower because you've seen the reality of the nuts and bolts. How now getting to a mindset like that is gonna bring a lot of ups and downs. How do you get your emotional state back up when you're feeling like crap, right? So you gotta get your shit together. That's awesome. Literally, you gotta see what I did there? Yeah, I'm telling you, like the best at PowerPoints.
It's annoying. I'm gonna come back with the best fucking PowerPoint.
Well, your VA.
Hire a PowerPoint.
Yeah, but it don't count, bro, because your VA did it. No, like it's gotta be.
Professional team.
Bro, we're gonna have VA competitions to see like who makes the ultimate PowerPoint. Sheila's gonna write a PowerPoint and she's gonna blow your mind. You're gonna die after you see Sheila's PowerPoint from the excitement. All right, so self-care, what does that look like to you? Are you, I don't know, going out on walks? Are you breathing? Are you eating right? You know, the stuff that we put in our bodies, like that's the fuel, right? there's things that we can come in and do that are gonna improve that to the 1,000%. I started fasting, right? Just eating a little later and then giving my body time to recover and that sort of thing. But what does self-care look like to you? Do you go on personal dates? Do you take yourself out to the massage, place whenever you get a win, right? Are you stacking your wins? Are you patting yourself on the back? I'm my biggest cheerleader. And it's not coming from a space of being, arrogant. It's really because it's like, I understand that I have to, perk myself up when I'm by myself. This place, this office, it's usually me walking around with a cell phone, just working on deals. It's just me by myself, like this, and then I'll hang out with, the Grinch over there and like talk to it because I'm lonely. And but no, it's we have to put emphasis on self-care. How many times have you put that aside? If you feel like, I don't know, getting a massage or taking a short little staycation or something, but you put yourself outside of that picture. Not yet. I'm going to push it back. Oh, no, I want to do this first. Oh, no, I got to take care of my, I don't know, my kids first. And they're very important. But we have to fill our cups, is the point I'm trying to make, right? Self-care goes a long way because if you practice self-care, you're going to be better for everybody around you. Does that make sense? And this is one of the shit that we keep, one of the things that we keep pushing is to the side.
You're also much more enjoyable.
Yeah. I'm super enjoyable. I don't know about you. Happiness and joy leads to the happiness and joy thing. So simple beacon, right? Are we smiling enough? Are we having great conversations? Are we spending time in rooms that we actually want to spend time in, right? What does that look like? Is what you're doing in terms of pursuit, right? I love the life, liberty, and the pursuit. Saying what is it, Cadillac? Life, liberty, and the pursuit. Was that the slogan for them? I think, anyways. But life, liberty, and the pursuit. I love the pursuit of happiness because, when are you ever going to get to happiness? Is that a thing that's on a wall somewhere that you tap in and then you reached it? No, like it's an ongoing thing, right? So life, liberty, and the pursuit. What does that look like to you? Inner peace, going back to meditation, going back to self-reflection. When I journal, I come up with all kinds of thoughts that okay, that's kind of random, but it came, out of my thinking. It's out of my, time of reflection, out of my conversation with myself. And that brings me, to this space of inner peace, right? A lot of times there's a lot of noise. Our brains are meant to process information. And you can't be thinking about two things at the same time. There is no fucking way that you're going to think about two things at the same time. You may be thinking about two separate things very fast, but the same thought is not going to happen twice in the same space in your brain. It doesn't happen that way. We're linear thinkers. That's how the brain works. Now, think about this for a second. You wake up in the morning, the first thing that you do is grab your phone, you start looking at IG, so-and-so posted this. Oh shit, they closed another deal and I'm still struggling with that other one. Look, they bought a car. Oh, fuck, that's my car. So we start to see all this information, right, from social media, from, the people around us, conversations. We jump in the car, we start driving in traffic, somebody cuts us off, like we're flipping people left and right. And we're consuming information all day long. We don't give ourselves time to actually have our own thinking, our own thoughts, our own, the critical thinking, thing is it's very important, right? But when are you giving yourself that time block to actually come up with original ideas, to actually come up with your own voice and listen to your own voice more importantly, right? That's going to give you that sense of inner peace. Why? Because you're expressing yourself. You're getting a lot of stuff that's, subconsciously buried within you. And if you don't give yourself that time to work on that intentionally, it's not going to happen, right? So improve your clarity. These are some other, some just pointers on how to get to that space where you actually have better clarity over what you're doing. And I'll go through them. It's a lot of them. I'll give you guys a copy of this PowerPoint as well. So mental mind dump. This is one thing that I do on a regular basis. I call it the mental mind dump. I have a lot of ideas, and they're all great ideas. They're billion-dollar ideas. And I end up writing stuff down, and they as soon as I write it down, I was like, that's really stupid. And it brings me clarity and focus. Okay, what's the stuff that really matters, right? But when I do a mental mind dump, it's if I have something that's bothering me, an issue, something really, really simple that you can do is pros and cons. It's the most basic, exercise that you can do when you're writing. get a line down the middle, pros and cons of whatever decision you have to make, right? You start, putting stuff down in paper. More importantly, putting stuff down in perspective. But you do a mental mind dump of what the whole thing looks like. And then when you see it, have you seen those the murder movies when the guy's working on the board and he's connecting the red dots and the line, and this guy killed that person? It's like, holy shit, it was the cat the whole time. That's what a mental mind dump does. Like, you start connecting the dots on certain things, and eventually it's gonna put you back on track to like the stuff that really matters. And is this something, you were talking about the shiny object. It's a lot of times those things get in the way because we get clouded and we just don't have enough clarity over it. What does your ideal self look like? Ask yourself that question. Where do you want to live? And may sound cliche, but if you haven't done the exercise, do it at least once. Don't be afraid. I guarantee you're gonna feel embarrassed to write down the stuff that you desire. Isn't that crazy? Like, I don't know, have you ever done it?
Yeah, like I think it comes down to that. Again, you said it earlier, the financial blueprint, like we don't deserve this stuff.
And we start writing stuff, and I'll speak for myself, like, oh shit, I want to do, and I feel like apprehensive about even putting it down in my own journal when nobody else is gonna read it. It's a conversation I'm having with myself, yet, I feel like, oh shit, should I write that down? And if we don't have the confidence to pursue it within ourselves, like, how do you think it's gonna manifest in real life, right? What does joy look like? What gets you in alignment? Is it conversations? Is it music? Is it, I'm really good at drinking beer and playing music with my friends. I love that. It's like one of my things. But it just sets me up and puts me in this real good space, right? Not the beer and getting hammered, like don't milk that, but it's just, it's activity, it's joy, right? There's certain things that are gonna put you back in that space. What does the life you wanna live look like? Are you talking family? You're talking impact? Go deeper than the material stuff. What can you control? Out of everything that's happening, what can I actually control? Out of all those fears that are landing in our heads and that put us in that dark hole of thinking, what can we actually come in and control? What do we have the ability to impact, right? To move around our teams, our staff, our efforts, our perspective, the way that we choose to approach problems. What do you want to impact the most, and why do you exist? That's a deep question. I like to just kind of leave that one as a seed, right? But when it comes to lifelong, like, I know that I'm excited to know that the ripple effects of my conversations with my kids are gonna have ripple effects. Like, that's one of the things that I came about when I was thinking about that question, right? Where do I want to impact the most? Just making good people, because they're gonna make more good people. Basics. What is important now? WIN. It's another acronym. WIN. W-I-N. What is important now, right? What's important now? Going back to focus and clarity, right? And the stuff that we can actually move and have an impact on right now. Improve your results. Again, we're going over just a few like strategies that you can implement on improving all these areas. What's your 3-year vision? Have you written that down? Like, people do 10-year visions, 20-year visions. I like to keep it at 3, then dial it back to a year, and then quarters. To me, just a lot more realistic, especially because everything's moving so fast. But what's your 3-year vision, right? Where do you see yourself in 3 years? Are you still doing the same amount of business that you're doing? Are you traveling the same, as frequently as you're traveling right now? Are you doing it more? Are you taking, bigger vacations? Are you taking, family with you on those vacations? And it's always funny. I'm thinking about vacation right now. Like, this is a me thing, totally a me thing, right? But when I'm speaking, like, and I go through these things, like, the stuff that I want comes out. So I said vacations like 3 times because I really want to take a vacation. But 3-year vision, like, what does that look like to you, right? Be pragmatic about it. You can set it up in goals, and then chunk them down to 90-day goals in 5 areas. Give yourself challenges. If you want motivation, give yourself a real challenge, something that's going to put you out of your comfort zone, something that's going to give you something to aim at and hold yourself accountable. Like, that's the magic part, not just writing down the goal, right? How do I hold myself accountable? But I like to break down the professional side. Set a number, right? I don't know. I want to do $100,000, net profit next month. Emotional, spiritual, physical, intellectual. Physical, going to the gym 3 times. Spiritual, I'm going to meditate. You know, if you're not a religious person, you can still connect with yourself and then meditate. I want to meditate 15 minutes. Side note, if you haven't read The Silva Mind Control Method, it's a really good book. It's not about controlling people's minds like it sounds. It's about meditation. Super simple, strategies of meditation. Really good book. Chapters 3 and 4 are fire. Silva Mind Control Method. Side note. Intellectual. Do you want to put yourself in more rooms? Do you want to listen to more podcasts? How many, I want to read a book a month, all right? That's a goal, right? But you're working on different areas that at the end of the day are going to improve you. There's no way that they won't. And you're kind of elevating yourself across different stages. If that makes sense. Massive action and accountability as well. So, Bulletproof mindset. This is some of the stuff that I do on a regular basis. Journaling is one of the biggest ones. I love the fact that I can take pen to paper and then just get clarity over anything. It's almost like a superpower. It really is. When you use it that way and you become intentional about it, you can actually sit down for a journaling session and be intentional about the clarity that you want to get at the end of it. I want to figure out my plans for the next 3 months, right? Then you start writing on that. It's crazy. Sometimes it'll take you 10 minutes. Sometimes you'll be there for 3 hours. But what comes out of that paper, it's really eye-opening. It really is. Meditation and gratitude. You probably heard it a bazillion times, right? Great, gratitude. It really is when you're happy, when you're being grateful about something, it's really hard to be pissed off. When you're meditating and spending time with clarity with yourself, it's hard to have any other emotions in place, right? If you're being intentional about that space, about the giving yourself the room to think and process and get that level of clarity, your self-reflection and critical thinking is going to be wired. You're going to be tapped into it. So visualizing and dreaming, it's another thing that I do a lot. I'll sit there and then just look at the wall. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm on a trip right now. And I'll get, like, he knows that he's seen it. That's my nephew, by the way. And, but it's something that I do on a regular basis, like quite frequently, right? I dream about possibilities now. I didn't allow myself to dream before. And that's it's a real shitty thing to do for yourself, right? If you don't allow yourself to dream big, and almost dream uncomfortable, right? I think it's the seed that really makes things work. Like, what are we gonna build? What are we gonna create? What level of freedom do we want? We're not even dreaming about it. Like, come on, create that awareness for yourself. We have the power to do that with a little bit of imagination. Intentional joy. I smile a lot. I give myself props a lot, even when I'm by myself. Like bro, crushed it. I do. Alignment. To me, I'm in alignment with what right now is my purpose. And I say right now because, again, I don't know if that's going to change in a year. I don't know if it's going to change in 5 years. I don't know if it's going to stay like that my entire life. But now I know that I'm in alignment with it, right? What are you in alignment with? The mindset part of life, really, it's our responsibility. You're not gonna go to somebody and he's gonna fix your brain. Like, they may give you tips and strategies and ways to have conversations within yourself, but you have to put in that work. You have to put that time for understanding, or to understand who you are, how you react, right? What gets you back on track whenever you feel like you're off? Are you committed or are you interested to the space that you're in? If you're dabbling in real estate, which I doubt because you guys are still listening to my bullshit at 8:30 p.m. on a Friday night, it means that you're committed, right? But ask yourself, am I committed or am I interested? If you're interested, the next show on Netflix is gonna throw you out of your ritual, out of your purpose, out of your goal, right? It's gonna knock you off balance because you're just interested. But if you're committed, nothing's gonna stop you. When you got committed to actually doing something and jumping into entrepreneurship, everything changed, right? Like, rain wasn't gonna stop you from putting out bandit signs. If you're interested, it's like, it's cold. No. This morning, you were interested in going to Echo Trail and he didn't go. He didn't commit. And like, it was too cold. I didn't have a jacket.
I still made it.
I had to go pick you up, bro. Like, come on, dude, let's go, lazy.
You told me, oh, there's too much traffic.
Yeah. Well, I was interested in being there at 9, but I was committed to being there at 10. See what I did? But ask yourself the question, right? Because again, that's gonna dictate the amount or the level of action and emphasis that you put into everything that you do. Are you committed to making something work, or are you just interested? If you're just interested, you're taking half-assed action. Do not be surprised if your results are half-assed. That again, that's a conversation within yourself. It's a mindset thing. What is your counterbalance? That one is huge. Grant Cardone told me that one. Counterbalance is we tend to go heavy, super heavy, right? At least I know I do. But a lot of times as entrepreneurs, that's the wiring that we have. We start prospecting, we start working on deals, we start, making contracts and sending out offers and doing all kinds of stuff. Next thing you know, it's like 9 p.m. at night. It's like, oh shit, what happened? It's okay to do it whenever you're in that trench and in the work, right? But eventually it's gonna get heavy. What are you doing to counterbalance yourself? What do you take? What can take you out of that space when you're going too heavy into one side, right? If it's effort, if it's a lot of work, what are you doing to counterbalance that? Do you have something that, I don't know, like date night, during the week, So that's a counterbalance thing for me. The gym is another counterbalance thing because I know I tend to go very heavy at work. I got to counterbalance that with something else. What's your counterbalance when you're going too much into something? Right? Or when you're not going enough into something, what are you going to do to counterbalance that as well? Are you in survival mode or are you in creative mode? Oh, time blocking and focused attention. It's kind of like that's pretty self-explanatory, but are you in survival mode or are you in creative mode? If you're in survival mode and trying to make ends meet, again, it's going to be really, really tough to get, super creative, to contribute, to, create that bigger picture. We have the ability to dream. We have the ability to create a different perspective of the world that we want around us, right? The world that we want to create around us. But if you're in survival mode, understand that shit's gonna be tougher. There's gonna be different priorities that kick into place. You're wired differently because you're trying not to die, literally, right? And what do you do? Does what you do give you energy or does it drain you? So that's a very simple question. When I stand in front of a crowd and I feel like I'm dropping, something that's going to be of benefit, that gives me energy, and I can go on for hours. I can talk for hours. If you put me in a cubicle and you have me work a spreadsheet, like I'm actually pretty good at spreadsheets too, bro. Like you haven't seen that, but I can do it for a lot less. Like I can do it for maybe an hour or two, and I'm burnt. Like all right, like my head hurts. I'm not wired for that, right? It's not like, it doesn't give me energy. So that takes away energy. I do that when I have to. But when I do my regular stuff, when I'm talking to people, when we're closing deals, talking to sellers, negotiating, like that stuff gives me energy. Again, it goes back to that alignment, that I feel like we all want to have as entrepreneurs. Is what you're doing giving you energy, or is it draining you, right? When we hire people, if you want to take it to the business side, what are you hiring first for? The stuff that's draining you, or the stuff that you can actually come in and then it empowers you to continue moving further, right? So self-audit, those are some things that I implement, like I work on a regular basis, and I think again going back to I'm gonna sound like I'm beating a dead horse. I was trying to think of the phrase. But the biggest battle is going to happen here. You are going to have a lot of pushback. You're going to have sellers that say, I don't want to do business with you. You're going to have all kinds of stuff that come at you, right? Shit changes in the market. Business is not going right. An employee fucks you over. That kind of stuff is going to happen, right? How do we process it? And how do we get ourselves back on track with that alignment that we need to have, right? Because there's people that depend on us, not just the team, but now we're talking families. We're talking, the people that we're doing business with. Like that conversation in there is important, and it's important to give yourself the space to have that conversation. So, hope you guys liked it. Do you have anything else? Do you want to add anything to it? See, I got more claps than you did. No, you guys have been amazing. I want to give it up to Will, man, bro. I respect the heck out of you. Thank you so much, bro, for flying in on your own dime, on your own time, putting all your stuff on hold to come and spend some time with us here in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona. So, and I want to thank you guys also for stopping by. Again, we could be somewhere else. You guys, put up with us for what, 5 hours? Yeah, I mean, that's a long time, dude. I don't think my mom doesn't even do that. But I mean, gratitude is really, the biggest thing I can just put on the table. And I'm very grateful that you guys choose to work not only on in the space and improve the space that we're in, but work on yourselves and have that impact, right? This matters. The stuff that we're doing here matters. The way that we communicate with sellers, the way that we do business with other people matters. The way that we connect. I mean, I heard just kind of eavesdrop on a few conversations, but there's deals happening already within people in the room. So thank you guys all for coming. Appreciate it. Love you guys. And we're going to do this again. Yeah. Take a bow.